Hi, and welcome into another edition of Primary Residential Mortgage, Armchair Quarterback. I'm Tony Lombardi, Drew Foster, Dean Johnson. You know what? We're in the same position that we were in the last 2 years.
Wait.
You're jealous, I know.
No. So you sent, let's pull the curtain back.
This is set up, by the way.
No, it's not, as far as you know.
As far as I know. Well, that's what a setup is, right?
You sent a text out and said, hey, everybody is going to wear an ugly Christmas sweater or jacket.
Right.
And
Is this ugly?
No, actually,
It looks good on you. It matches your socks.
So I got the text, and I looked at it, and I said, I know what's going on here. This is just like what happened to Leave It to Beaver. When Beaver lined up.
I love Leave It to Beaver.
When Beaver lined up in the back of the classroom, and Whitey said to him, hey, Beav, when they take the picture, we're all going to do that behind the kids' heads. And they took the picture, and when Beaver's parents got the picture, they're like, Beav, can you come in a second? And he had his 2 fingers up. And Miss Landers, who Beaver, of course, had a crush on, Miss Landers sent a note home and said, Beaver did that behind her. And I knew you were going to come like this. You were going to come like that. I mean, I knew that I was supposed to come in with this jacket or a shirt, but you guys were going to come in regular. So what I'm going to do, just to be part of it, because I want to be part of the team, is I'm going to at least wear...
Go Caps.
I'm going to at least wear a holiday hat. Like a Christmassy sort of... How's that look? Good?
Yeah, it looks great.
But I knew...
I take you more seriously now.
What do you have?
Nothing. Just my intellect.
And you don't want to text me like, love the idea.
Right.
I forgot.
But I knew...
There's no better way to say it.
I knew if I came in with an ugly Christmas sweater, and I own a couple, you would be dressed normal, and you would be dressed normal, and it would be the Beaver. I would get the Beaver thing behind it. Hey, look at this guy. He wore the goofy jacket. So congratulations, you did it.
I always talk about Leave It to Beaver because Brussels sprouts are a thing.
Right.
Remember how you used to put them in his pocket?
How about when he went up into the billboard and Whitey yelled up, "Put your foot on the lady's thumb, Beav," when he was on the coffee company, he couldn't get down.
Whitey's a setup guy.
Oh, no doubt. They don't make those shows like that anymore. Eddie Haskell, those were the best.
Okay, so the Ravens are at 8-6 now.
It's deja vu all over.
It is. Steelers won, which means the Ravens kind of have to win out.
They more than kind of.
Just like they had to in 2016.
You can take kind of out of that sentence.
Yeah, that's true.
They have to win out. Have to win out. And San Diego, Drew. I said San Diego. The Chargers look. Chargers can still get the number 1 seed. It's not unrealistic to think it's not.
Right. I mean, there's obviously
they could lose to Seattle. The Chiefs could.
Oh, correct.
Yeah. Right. And there's a way. It would require the Titans and/or the Colts to lose this week at home to one of the NFC East teams, and then the other team win the next weekend for them to both finish 9-7.
Correct.
There's still a way that the Ravens can finish 9-7.
They're both heavily
favored. But yeah, I mean, it would be sort of kind of a miracle if the Ravens got in at 9-7. But I think this is a really interesting topic. What if they finish 5-2? Go out there and lose and fight and scratch and lose 24-20 or whatever. What if they finish 5-2 with Lamar since the
Joe's injury
bye and Joe's injury? They finished 5-2. They beat the Browns 30-17 the final game. It's not good enough. They don't make the playoffs. How do you let the coach go? How do you let the offensive coordinator go? Like, how do you, if you're Steve Bisciotti, and I get it, like beginning of the year, it wasn't in writing and ink, but it might have been in pencil somewhere. If you don't make the playoffs, we love you, but we'll miss you. How do you do that if they finish 5-2? If you're Steve Bisciotti, when the season ends, how do you let the coach go if they've made that kind of recovery? And realistically, if they stop that 4th and 9 play or the 4th and 3 play, it's if, just like last year with Tyler Boyd. If they stop that play, they make the playoffs. How are you firing the coach?
And if you add to the dilemma by saying that they got on board with Lamar Jackson and they're going to ride that horse for a little bit longer. I don't, what we've seen so far from Lamar, I don't see him as a franchise quarterback. But, really what is that? What does that mean, franchise quarterback? To me, it means that you're one of those 5 or 8 guys that can actually carry a team. There's a lot of good guys that aren't really franchise quarterbacks. But with Lamar, they have a way of winning with him if they surround him with the right talent. And we've talked about that in previous shows. The danger in doing that, if you surround him with the kind of talent that's specific to him and he doesn't come through, then what do? You have to find somebody just like him?
In this league, though, you got to go for it. I mean, you have to go for it. And I think if they finish 5-2 with Lamar, remember, let's jump ahead, though. If they release Joe Flacco, Terrell Suggs is at the end of his contract. You could see Jimmy Smith going. I mean, you're going to talk about a team that finally will be in some decent shape, salary cap wise.
Yeah, Weddle's gone.
Yeah, with money to spend on players to potentially surround them. I mean, I think you got to go for it. And by go for it, I mean get faster guards, get a game-breaking running back that goes in that run-pass option. You got Gus Edwards to be the other type of running back, and keep trying to load him up with tight ends and wide receivers and see what you got. I mean, we haven't schemed for him. I mean, we're talking about a potential 5-2 record without us really scheming for Lamar. You saw a couple more rollouts this week, by the way, which we hadn't seen previously. But if they scheme for him all off season, regardless of who the offensive coordinator is, I think they kind of have to go for it.
I think the more I see him, I keep saying this over and over. Nothing I've seen from him surprises me at all. I think exactly what we see of him is what we're going to get. And even next year and the year after, I think this is what he does. 50% of the big yardage, and when I say big yardage, I mean 7-8 yards or more. 50% of those plays are all plays he makes because the line broke down, he got pressured. Joe would have been sacked in that, if cookie cutter, in that exact moment, Joe would have been sacked. Lamar's able to scramble out of it. I think he's probably a little stronger than his appearance and his physique give off because he's been doing this for a long time, right? Guys are grabbing on him.
He beats arm tackles.
So I think 50% of what he does, by no means am I going to say fluke in the nature of like the way we all consider a fluke to be like just pure luck. But I think 50% of it is he just sort of flukes his way into an open spot and all of a sudden the play has broken down and he's athletic enough and quick enough to break it. Then the other plays are the ones that they've designed that he's slowly starting to pick up and figure out and learn how to get into open space, how to hide the ball better. I think that they got to do that. They're just going to go with this, at least for next season. They got to go with this. Like you said, get some more athletic linemen, add a couple of more weapons. And the big question to me is, what are you going to do with the coach and the offensive coordinator? Are you willing to concede that the coach's role, certainly John's role, is much more sort of global than, well, Harbaugh can't coach Lamar Jackson. I hear that a lot. I hear people say, if they're going to go with Lamar, Harbaugh can't be the coach. And I'm like, really? Why not? Why can't John be the coach?
The bigger question is the offensive coordinator.
Correct. That's my point. Like, if any of the three of us became the coach of the team, I don't think we would go in there and completely disrupt the whole thing. We'd say, hey, that thing with Lamar Jackson's working pretty well.
Right.
I don't think any of us would go in and say, we're changing the way Lamar plays. I don't think John's going to do that.
But you know John fairly well.
I think it's the most interesting topic of the team. If they don't make the playoffs, I don't think they can possibly fire the coach.
But you know him pretty well. What do you think he would say to Steve or Eric? They go to him and say, we want you to hang around, John. We're ready to give you an extension. But to get the most out of Lamar, we need a different kind of coordinator. What do you think John says to that?
I kind of think he has to say yes. I've seen a different side to John Harbaugh this year, and look, I don't have the knowledge of the inner workings like you guys have a little more than I do, but I've seen a different guy. I've seen him embrace the team in a different way than he has in the past, which leads me to believe he's a guy willing to change. And if this is where he wants to be, and all indications are this is where the man wants to continue to be, why wouldn't he go down that road?
I mean, that's a good question. I mean, in one way, the coach part of this, the response would be, I make those personnel decisions, right? That would be his position. On the other hand, he might not really have an option, and it might be presented to him like that, like you don't have an option. It's hard to say what Steve really, really wants. Like, that's why this whole thing about if they finish 5-2, what are they going to do? Steve might look at 5-2 and might look at what Lamar says, and Steve might be of the mindset that actually this fits better with Marty. That this new style is something that Marty can kind of sink his teeth into and grab onto. I almost think that they're one and the same, personally. I think if John's back, Marty's back, to me. But if John isn't back, then obviously the whole staff is going to change. I find it to be by far the most intriguing part about the season. is if they go 5-2.
Well, remember,
how do you find
another reason to advocate? I mean, as fans, to advocate for wanting him to stay is Wink Martindale's doing a tremendous job. We haven't talked about that a ton here, but he's doing a tremendous job. Most of that same defense is back again next year, regardless of salary cap situation. I mean, yeah, Weddle might turn over. It'll be interesting to see what they do with Suggs, but they're not primary pieces of that defense that's doing so well. But you want Martindale back, and if you turn over the whole thing, maybe he's not back. So that continuity is one we definitely would want,
should want to see.
Very well liked.
And the thing I think
I'm going to stop real quick just to make a quick. Don't be surprised if ... this happens. Don't be surprised if Martindale winds up in Arizona and Suggs goes with it.
As head coach?
Yep. No, Suggs wouldn't be the head coach. He'd be a linebacker.
He'd be the assistant head coach.
No, don't be surprised if there are lots of people now starting to talk about Martindale as potential head coach candidate, and don't be shocked if he would get that job in Arizona and then Suggs will go with him for a couple years.
I think that Wink doesn't get the notoriety in Baltimore because I think there's this perception, and it's probably mostly true in the media and amongst the fan base, that the Ravens still have a difficult time getting off the field in crunch time. That play that really matters. Mm-hmm. Going back to Kansas City, 4th and 9, game on the line. Mm-hmm. He throws a miraculous pass. And let's look at it this way, too. Lamar Jackson could be 5-0 if not for that miraculous pass. Mm-hmm. So I think that Wink doesn't get props for that. And then dialing it back to John's press conference on Monday, he talked about, he was questioned about the Ravens' offense. And one of the things he said, he led off by crediting Greg Roman. I thought that was interesting. Mm-hmm. And I know he's got that history of the Kaepernicks, of the world, right. and I know Marty has it with Mike Vick too. So, but he led off with Greg Roman.
Yeah, John pretty much never says something in the press conference that isn't in there for a reason.
Right.
There's always way back in the back of his mind, I'll say this or I won't say this. There's a specific reason why. It's always planned out. 100%.
That's strategic every time he goes up there.
Because he's always, in my mind, he's always either talking to Steve or the team. He's not really talking to the media. He doesn't want to talk to the media. And he's not really talking to the fans because, in all fairness, the coaches don't really like talking to the fans. They don't. And their mindset is, you just come and watch the games. I don't have to talk to you about
I have a job to do.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like, they don't. They just want to coach football. They don't want to do all this other stuff, but they have to do it. So when John does do it, he's talking to the team or he's talking to Steve.
Bill Belichick likes to do it.
Amen. Oh, he was really good the other day after the Pittsburgh game. Did you see him?
Only part of it.
Oh, it's worth, I never wish, well, I do wish ill will on the Flyers. I never really wish ill will on any teams, but it's so funny when they lose. Just to see him and hear him and
not just lose, they kind of gave they lost in uncharacteristic fashion for them.
Does that look like the end of an era?
That throw,
game? The game,
yeah,
a little bit. I mean, they're 9. It's the first time since 2008 or 2009 that they won't win 12 games. I mean, that's a pretty remarkable record.
Yeah.
That they went almost a decade and went 12-4 or better that whole time in a. And I get it. Everybody always talks about they have a patsy division, but you still got to win. You still got to go on the road and win. It does look. I mean, they're 9-5. They're probably going to finish 11-5, but it does look like they're starting. They're like a little bit like an old dog. They're starting to limp a little more than they used to, and the end is near. It looks like. But
it could have helped us.
Don't write them off yet, because in the playoffs, you know they're going to get a flag or two when they need it. I wouldn't write them off yet. I want to, but I wouldn't write them off yet. Plus, if they break out the old helmet, it's all over.
Well, it seems like,
the old Pat the Patriot, the guy that hikes the ball.
Yeah, like you got the old hat on.
If they break that helmet out, you can forget it. I don't know why Belichick hasn't gone to that yet. You got to break the old helmet.
It's all over.
Oh man,
red jerseys.
There's no chance you can beat them if they wear that outfit. No doubt.
So, looking at the league, you've got these powerhouses that are starting to come back to the pack a little bit. You got the Rams, the Saints, and the Chiefs. They look like they were unstoppable. They're starting to come back, and wouldn't you know it, in this offensive league, defense is starting to really step up.
I thought the same thing. I mean, I wanted to interject that a couple minutes ago when we were talking about Martindale. I feel good about the way we're playing. I feel good that we can hold the Chargers down. It is shifting a little. Like last night's game was 12-9. I mean, I went to bed, but last night's game was 12-9 with Cam Newton.
Ugly on both offensive
Cam Newton
sides.
and Drew Brees. Mm-hmm. 12-9. It's a little different.
Drew looked a lot ordinary last night, and Mahomes remains to be seen. Rivers is the one who's on fire.
I hate that it's coming down to one game, though. I hate that. Like,
well, if you don't lose to the Browns in Cleveland, 12-9.
Yeah, I mean, right. But, they had the game won against Kansas City. All these losses add up, right? They all add up. I mean, if Mosley doesn't get hurt in the Bengals game and they don't have this first half where no one really knows what's going on, who knows how that ends? I just hate that it comes down to one game. It's inevitable that it sort of does, but it
does every year.
I just because so much can happen Saturday. So much can happen, and they could lose by a field goal, and then these two goofy teams could win on Sunday, and we're out. Like, if nothing else, and this is maybe another topic we're going to discuss or not, but if nothing else, I would really like to see what the crowd would be on the 30th if the game.
Well, we talked about that last week, about this past week, but the weather
no one was there.
Well, the weather.
Did you go?
I did not go. Gave my tickets to my brother-in-law.
Did he get a scarf?
I didn't talk to him. I didn't ask him.
But
were you there?
No, but I don't know anybody that got a scarf.
Oh, I don't either. But they exist, don't they?
30,000 of them, allegedly.
And there weren't 30,000 people.
Downing had one. He was pictured on Ravens' website with one.
I think there were 35. I think most, in my mind, and I've been a crowd guy for a long time because I've made my living in the soccer business looking at attendance and crowds. Most people tend to underestimate the number of people that are there. Like, I saw lots of people on Twitter the other day saying, stadium's half filled. Not really. That means 35,000 of those 70,000 seats are unoccupied.
Nah, you just have more people in the concourse. I get what you're exactly right.
But there were probably 25,000 no-shows the other day. That's an extraordinary amount of people not using the tickets. So fast forward again to the 30th. What if the game matters? What if we win on Saturday and the other two teams win on Saturday, and all of a sudden
hold on, and Cleveland wins.
Right. Well,
Cleveland's
Cleveland's out of it unless something really squirrely happens. Cleveland's basically out of it. They don't have anything left. They will not have anything left to play for unless somehow magically the Colts and the Titans would tie that last game.
And to add to that,
still, they're going to want to come in here and no question.
And sweep us, right?
They're going to want to come in here and win.
Let's assume the Steelers lose in New Orleans. Now, let's look at that crowd.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think this is it's getting close to, we're beating a dead horse a little bit with the crowd, but something is wrong. And I continue to say this. It's a pizza. And the Ravens, there are all these different slices to it. And it's not one thing. And I will continue to say this. It isn't about winning or the games being important. Because the games have been important and people aren't going. The games were important last year at the end of the year and people weren't there. The games are important this year and people aren't there.
The Cincinnati game last year is an
incredible
number of empty seats.
Right. Now, they changed the game time to 4:35. That was kind of dumb. But still, they didn't, but the league did. If they play the Browns on the 30th of December and the game matters to the Ravens and the place isn't standing room only, it's not 68,000, because there are always going to be a handful of people that don't go, but if it's not 68,000 impact, boy, that is a real eye-opener for them. And I know they're worried about it. I've talked to some people.
Or if you watch on Facebook and you see half your feed saying, I've got free tickets, I've got free tickets.
Right. It's incredible, isn't
There's just, and people always want to say this. This isn't just a problem with the Ravens, it's a problem around the league. And no one cares about the rest of the league. I don't care that the Atlanta stadiums have filled. I don't care that the Miami stadiums have filled. I just care that the Baltimore stadiums have filled. Like, there's something going on in this town when people aren't going to the games that already have the tickets. It's one thing if
can get tickets.
Either way,
you can't get people to take the free tickets.
Right. So this is to me, other than the changing of the guard between Flacco, who's clearly been Wally-pipped, between to me the biggest story of the year for the Ravens, other than Lamar starting his era. The biggest story of the franchise is the attendance this year.
Yep.
How many people aren't going?
The millennials that work with me all say they go down, they tailgate, and then they head to Federal Hill.
I mean,
even when there's tickets offered to them.
That. And again, that's one of the slices.
Yep,
I think
absolutely.
there's no question. There's a small slice of this that's the discontent from last year over the incident in London. There's a small group of, frankly, older people like me
Get me.
I'm not going anymore because I took a knee. Like, okay, there'll be part of that, right? There's part of it is downtown safety. The Ravens are well aware of that. Again, it's a pizza. There's all these different slices. I don't think the games have been incredibly exciting. I don't think more than anything, I just don't think we want to sit around and do the same thing for 4 hours anymore.
Except play golf.
Well, that we'll do, right. But I just don't think we want to, our culture's not built like that anymore. We just don't want to devote 7 hours. Get in the car, drive down there, have a couple drinks, go to the game, stand in line to pee, get back in the car, fight the traffic to go home. It's 7 hours. We would rather just make it 3.5 hours. Just sit at home. Just sit at home and make it a 3.5 hour event.
Hit pause.
Right. So
hit pause.
And therein lies the issue around the league, I think. They've really sold their soul to TV, and they've made it so easy to sit home that people are sitting home.
Do you ever think it'll get to pay-per-view for TV?
100%. I don't know that it'll get pay-per-view for all the games, but I think there will be a day in the near future, and by that I mean near future to me is within 15 years, where you will pay a fee to watch all of your team's games. And maybe in a way that has your own home TV announcers, meaning the Ravens would send their own announcing crew to all the games. So you would watch just your TV announcers. You would have different cameras at home than you would normally. For sure, the playoffs and the Super Bowl would be pay-per-view. I don't think there's any question about that. It's in some point in the future. If they're going to continue to try to make their living off of TV, they got to make their living off TV. They got to charge more. They got to figure out a way to get more money from all of us.
The playoffs and Super Bowl right now, I mean, as the path of least resistance, people would pay all day long. Mm-hmm. All day long. Mm-hmm. I think it kind of backs up. I'm with you on this one.
Yeah. Well, I think you got to balance out, too, what are you committing to your sponsors in terms of viewership? And how will a lesser, because let's face it, if it's free, there's going to be more people watching. If you got to pay, there's going to be some people out there saying, I'm not paying, I don't care if it's 10 cents, I'm not paying.
No doubt.
I mean, look at the Sun. They can't get people to pay for their subscription, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, but again, the newspaper industry's changed so much with the evolution of social media that the news that comes out in the newspaper, I already read that 12 hours ago, right? But the digital part of it, they try to get that up as quickly as they can, and it's still, no one's figured out yet how to make the newspaper business work, right?
99 cents a month will give you all this, but people still don't do it.
But as two people who own a free, and I get this question all the time from people, who say to me, why don't you just make Drew's Morning Dish a subscription-based thing? And I say this all the time. I don't think that's sustainable for the long haul. I still think free matters to people, that they can pick it up and they don't have to jump through hoops, go through bells and whistles, give you my credit card, give me your number, do this, do that. It doesn't work, paywall, just make it free. But down the road, if they keep selling their soul to TV like this, they're going to have to make a decision. Do we care about the product? Funny enough, the stadium in LA might wind up someday being the NFL stadiums of the future.
30,000
25,
seats.
30, 35,000 seats like they've done in soccer.
Like
it's unbelievable, right? They might have stumbled onto this by accident, and they may just sell the whole thing on TV, and oh, by the way, if you want to come to the game, feel free to come to the game, but we really don't care if you come to the game or not.
I suggested that to Steve Bouchette, because I do that show in Ocean City, and he comes down once a year, and I suggested that, do you think in the future NFL stadiums will get smaller? He almost laughed at me. Mm-hmm. But not saying
you wouldn't be laughing now. You can't put 40,000 in there.
That's the model in European soccer?
Yeah.
In all the countries.
Right.
And they're thriving.
Right. And I think that look, an economics expert, and I am not one, would go right to the whole issue of supply and demand, right? They would just say, it's very easy. You know, if 90,000 people want to get into a 70,000 seat stadium, you know, there's a lot of supply. I mean, there's a limited amount of supply and a lot of demand. Well, the Ravens are in the opposite mode now, right? So an economics guy would just throw that at you. I think it's way more complicated than that. I think that it's the world's changed. We just don't want to do something for 7 or 8 hours like that anymore. We might do it once.
Except play golf.
Right, except play golf. Oh, well, we keep that on one side. But we might, like, he and I went to Dave Matthews last week. It was a 6 or 7 hour event. I had to get in my car. I had to drive down to D.C. We had to go to dinner. Didn't have to go, but we went to dinner. We went to the show. We drove back home. I left at 4. I got home at midnight. I would do that once or twice a year. I love you. I would do that once or twice a year max, right?
Right.
I'm not doing that every Sunday. I love Dave Matthews. I'm not going to see him 10 times. I'll do it once or twice.
But how do you create that demand, I guess, is the challenge. You know, I look at a friend of mine who had a restaurant, and he was flourishing. It was a small restaurant. People were waiting, couldn't get in there, fighting to get a reservation.
I'm going to make it bigger.
Knocked through the wall, made it bigger. Guess what? Same number of people were coming through. Maybe even less, because there wasn't that aura about, I got to get there.
So I think the smaller stadium thing is definitely a functional improvement. I don't even know if that's the right word, but it's a functional aspect of this that they really should look at. That doesn't mean to go from 70 to 15, but it might mean to go from 70 to 35, for sure.
Well, that's the average. Again, I keep saying European soccer, that's the average. It's 25, 30,000 people. There's a few of the bigger clubs that have bigger stadiums, but, only one or two are up in that 60,000 range.
Right. This struck me, too, the other night, when, again, back to this concert we went to. It struck me as something the other night, and you've done them, well, you both have, because you guys have been ticket buyers and ticket holders. We went to this concert the other night. We had great seats. We had a wonderful time. The seats were $125 a piece, right? And it struck me when I was watching the show, I'm like, there's a lot of money here in this building tonight. Like, there's an extraordinary amount of money floating around. 18,000 people paying $125 or $90 or $75 to see these guys play music for 2 hours. And it dawned on me how much of a commitment you have to make financially to be a ticket holder. That when you go to a football game, you're paying $150 to watch something that you could watch at home. We didn't have that option with Dave Matthews. We had to go to the show. So that's the only way we can watch it. But for you to pay $150 to go down there, plus, right? Parking, booze, food, a shirt.
And you haven't even through this whole diatribe, you haven't even mentioned the PSL issue.
Right. So you're paying all that money, and you could easily just watch it at home. And I think to me that's the biggest telltale thing. I mean, you and I might have still gone down there last Thursday night for Dave Matthews, but you might have also said to me, why don't we just do this? Why don't I cook steaks on the grill and you come over and bring a couple bottles of wine and let's just sit and watch it on my TV? We might have done that. I mean, who knows?
Throw a DVD of an old Dave Matthews concert.
Who knows, right? Like So this is, to me, the biggest story of the Ravens, other than this potential surge by Lamar to get them into the playoffs. The biggest issue for me is I think they have some significant support issues. And I know they're aware of it, for sure.
Let's take a quick timeout. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Ravens against the Bucs and look ahead to their game against the Chargers on Saturday night.
Why PRMI? I get asked that question all the time, and I love answering it. I've been leading this team for 16 years, and PRMI has been and remains an industry leader. We get all the support of an industry leader, national company, while managing our loan flow locally. Our realtor partners and our customers get a team committed to customer service. They also get a team that knows our local markets. We closed 2,300 loans last year, and the future looks very, very bright. We love telling our story and would love to help you with your next transaction. Reach out to me or anyone on my team anytime. We'd love to help.
Welcome back to the Primary Residential Mortgage Armchair Quarterback. We've had a wardrobe change.
Calvert Hall, baby, come on. I thought you would break out a curly.
I didn't know Drew was going to give us such an economics lesson, about the fan base. I didn't know that we were getting that this morning. I mean, it's quite the treat.
They taught me a lot at Glen Burnie.
I know.
Back in the old days.
You and I have talked plenty about that.
Let's talk about our observations with the Ravens-Bucs. Just overall assessment of the game.
Well, so the weather was really, really, really bad.
Nasty.
So let's start there. I thought the defense was, we all know the defense was dominant. Marlon Humphrey was dominant out there.
Player of the game.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Lamar, despite the one weird, wet ball fumble, protected the ball, threw one bad ball in there. I think they did. I think they had a game plan, and they executed that game plan, in my opinion. It started off a little slow, but the defense, you could tell early on the defense was going to, take it to them. And that's all you can really do in the NFL is build a game plan and execute it. And they did. We sat here last week and said they need to win and get out of there unscathed. Well, we won and we got out of there unscathed, and here we are ready for the next week. So, there's a lot of little things that happened, but they executed a game plan and got out of there without any, major injuries. They got there. They won it pretty handily when it was all said and done.
It was a one-possession game or a one-score game, but down the stretch, you didn't really have, unless something goofy happened where we fumbled it and they picked it up and ran it in the end zone.
You mean like Cyrus Jones touching a punted ball and giving the ball back to them in the 15?
I think these games, and this is not just about Ravens-Bucs, but we're talking about Ravens-Bucs, these games all tend to the momentum of the game changes on plays, big plays, moments, right? Certain moments of the game, like the Steelers-Patriots game. They're down there on a 5 or 6 yard line. They get a holding call, backs them up. Now they can't get in the end zone. Then he throws this goofy ball, right? The whole game changes. Last night, New Orleans and Carolina, they need to get a fourth down or a third down. They need to get a first down, on third down late in the game. They don't get it. Now it's 4th and 1. Are they going to kick a field goal or are they going to go for it? They go for it. Kamara clearly gets caught by the tight end, and he moves out. Not tight end, the defensive end. He moves out and gets the first down. Like, game ends there, right? This game in Tampa Bay, the whole thing changes on that kid Godwin dropping the ball second play of the game. Mm-hmm. Second play of the game.
I agree.
Ball's thrown right in his hands. He catches it. He's gone. Weddle falls. He's gone. 2 series later, Lamar throws the ball right into Bullock's, or whatever his name is, right into his gut. If he catches the ball, he's got room to maneuver, but if nothing else, he's on the 35-yard line. And it coulda, shoulda, woulda maybe been 14-0 right away. Couldn't do it. That's why they're not going to make the playoffs. When they go back and they do their film study on their season, my guess is the Buccaneers have had plenty of those where, if we just do that, or we just do this, or we just do that, it's like what we say about Kansas City. If that ball goes anywhere from Mahomes to Tyreek Hill, anywhere but there, the Ravens are in the playoffs. Anywhere. Just last year, same thing. If the ball hits right there on Mosley's hand, the Ravens are in the playoffs. Instead, it goes in Inger's hand. So I look at these games, and I always look at the momentum and how the games start. If the Ravens fall behind 14-0, there certainly is an argument that doesn't fit Lamar's profile well, right? I mean, we haven't seen that yet. We don't know.
Well, this is a good. The Chargers have a good defense.
Right.
They got speed.
Top 10. Right.
They got speed. They're not, and there's enough film now. They're not going to be caught off guard by Lamar. Now, can we jam it down their throats? That remains to be seen. But they're not going to be caught off guard unless we come up with some new wrinkles.
Right.
They've got enough speed to handle holding the edge and kind of contain Lamar a little more than some of the teams we've already played.
Kind of to dovetail off what Drew said, I think that what you explained there kind of speaks to the strength and the power of having Lamar Jackson as the quarterback. What I mean by that is because of what he does and the way he does it, I think it masks problems on this team. I think it masks problems on the offensive line. It masks problems in really their running game without him. And I think it helps the defense stay off the field because the more they're off the field, the fewer chances other teams have to make big plays. I agree with you. That Godwin play.
Well, don't forget, Tony,
the whole thing.
When opposing quarterbacks break containment, those safeties are not cover safeties, and there's trouble ahead. And we've seen Roethlisberger do it, we saw Mahomes do it, and we even saw Jameis Winston do it on the 64-yard pass over Jimmy Smith when Weddle wasn't there to help out. So I think that Lamar Jackson, the power of him, really speaks to everything he's able to do because of the way he does it that keeps the team, makes the team better overall.
Well, this is something we talked a little bit about last week. I liked the way they had designed runs for Lamar to the outside where he wasn't trying to cut upfield. Where the announcers even said that Robert Griffin has coached him on, if you've got a straight line to the sideline, it's going to be a 5-yard gain. Make it a 5-yard gain, get out of bounds, don't get hit, and let's just start over because that's a 5-yard gain. You don't need to turn the 5-yard gain on first down into a potential 20-yard gain if you're going to take a hit, or a 5 into a 10-yard. Sprint to the sideline. You can get there. Nobody in the league can get there as quickly as him. And it's now 2nd and 5, and you've not been hit. Mm-hmm. And I'm dovetailing off your point, Tony. That's where I think the plays were designed better this week. Just boom, get out there, 2nd and 5.
And
boom,
Drew mentioned it earlier too about the athleticism of Lamar versus Joe. I thought that the Bucs had a really good defensive game plan. I really do. I think his athleticism broke it down, frustrated that team. I mean, there was probably at least 2 times, maybe 3 times, where they had him dead to rights for a sack.
And he scampered out.
There's no NFL
right.
We've seen it for years and years and years. There's no NFL quarterbacks that can, except for Lamar, that can, when the pocket collapses, can sprint backwards and then turn the corner and get back around. You've seen it a million times.
Newton maybe can do it.
Yeah,
he's really good at it.
But you know what I mean? Lamar would run backwards 5 yards just to sprint back upfield, and that's, to your point, that's frustrating to those. The defenders did everything they were supposed to do, and the guy can literally run backwards and get back around and keep the play alive.
So if we were self-scouting, the Ravens probably do this, and they're talking to him about how he's going to get better. The one thing that you've seen from him, his best throws are in the middle of the field. He's, in some ways, his the use of his arm is almost the opposite of Joe. Joe's best throws his whole career have always been to the sideline.
Hold on, I want to jump in for a second on that. That's where, when I say scheme, that scheme needs to change fundamentally, that's it. Because a lot of the plays, which they're slowly not going to anymore, were those out routes, those 15-yard out routes.
He just doesn't throw the ball well.
Joe throws it as well as anybody in the league.
Right.
And Lamar literally can't.
Right.
So now, bringing it inside the hash marks, which Joe didn't do a lot of,
right.
I mean...
But Lamar's best throws have been the ones. He threw a bullet the other day to Andrews. Andrews dropped.
Right. Oh.
He scorched it in there. And his best throws, if you look at his 5 games, his best throws have been in the middle of the field.
Inside the numbers.
He is no good on the sidelines. And if you're the other team and you're scouting against them, you've got to come up with a way to say, well, we'll give you that throw. We have no problem because we don't think you can make it. But we're going to bunch in and we're going to continue. I remember Rex used to say this a lot, Rex Ryan, because he did a call-in with me every Monday when I was on the radio. And I remember him, I would go out there occasionally and just sort of bend his ear at the facility. And I remember talking to him about Roethlisberger, and he said, I finally figured it out with Roethlisberger. I know what you do with Roethlisberger. You don't rush him. You don't let him run around. He wants to run around. You don't rush him. You just sit back. And if he gets the ball and looks up and doesn't see anybody, he doesn't know what to do. I think in some ways that's maybe sort of kind of what Lamar is facing. He wants people to come at him because it's just what he's always done his whole career.
And if they sit back, and then
he's a runner.
Yeah, and if he sits back, if they sit back and he turns that corner and they're sitting back, then he's got nobody. The windows are this small to throw it into.
Yeah, I'm not saying that you don't rush him if you have the opportunity, but I think if I were scouting against the Ravens, and I certainly we're playing cat and mouse here because the Ravens don't want to throw the ball, right? But if they get into a passing situation, I almost might play passively and let him take the snap from the shotgun, and when he looks up and doesn't see anybody coming around him, not that he's scared, but he looks up and says, now what do I do with it? No one's coming. What do I do? I got to throw it to somebody, right? If I'm the other, this is the dumb statement of the day. If I'm the other defense, I'm trying to figure out a way to make him throw the ball somehow. Does that mean?
And if he run in the middle of the field where linebackers are waiting to try to take his head off.
I'm not saying he's an easy guy to scheme against, and I am not a defensive mind by any means. But when you watch what he does well and what he doesn't do well, your goal is to figure out a way to make him try to do those things that he doesn't do well. How do I do it? They've done that with Joe, right? You want Joe to scramble around. Joe's not very good when he scrambles.
You also want Joe to throw in the middle of the field.
Yeah, right.
It's the opposite of Lamar.
Right.
Well, you mentioned earlier in the program about Lamar and his ability to escape, and I think when you look at what he's able to do on the football field and how he gets rid of the ball, you want to try to improve his passing. Now, I talked to a guy from Complete QB, his quarterback's coach, and I talked to him a little bit about how do you improve his mechanics. And he said, well, you got a 22-year-old kid. He's got 22 years of muscle memory in him. It's really hard to break that down. He said, but what you can
It's like me trying to fix your golf swing.
I was going to say, fix your golf swing.
I haven't been able to do it yet. I'm trying, but I just,
I don't have 20. I have 47 years. 47 years, Drew.
But he said, well, what you could do is change the way his body gets behind his arm motion. He said, perfect example is Philip Rivers. He says, a QB coach, I would never, ever want to change what he does because he's so effective.
Right.
But somewhere along the line, that horrible motion, he got the rest of his body mechanics behind, and he's obviously
probably going to the Hall of Fame with that wacky motion.
Right. So the point being that people want to know, can you teach accuracy? Well, you can teach better fundamentals to make him more accurate. But to your guys' point, outside the numbers, I don't know that he'll ever have that arm strength to throw that kind of pass that Joe is known for.
There is a golf connection to this, interestingly enough, when you bring up the way he throws the ball right now. He's got that little sidearm sort of motion. There's this golf analogy that talks about when you're under the gun, when you're on the 17th or 18th hole and you got 175 yards of the hole and you're ahead by a shot or down by a shot and the moment has come and you've got to hit this shot. Your tendency is to go back to your failings, your body, the way particularly if you've changed your golf swing. Under the gun, you always revert back to what you first learned. And then your faults come out. If you're somebody that comes out of the shot or somebody that doesn't get over to your left-hand side, those things tend to happen under the gun. I think he's always going to be a guy that under the gun is going to throw the ball like that. I don't think I think 7 years from now, he's still going to be throwing the ball with this motion. I think there'll be times when he takes the snap and there's no pressure and he's got time and he looks around and he throws it perfectly. But under pressure, which is what he does a lot, he's always going to throw the ball like this. I'm not a quarterback whisperer. I almost wouldn't fix it. I would almost say what I really would rather do is have you figure out a way to not get under duress so much.
The frustrating thing is when he catches, turns, and he's got the guy he's trying to hit in the flat, and he throws it right at his feet. That's a throw that...
The short throws he really struggles with.
Mm-hmm. And he doesn't step... I mean, look, again, I'm not an expert either, but clearly he's not comfortable just turning and letting it go. To your point, he likes to be moving. He likes to be involved in chaos. So it will... I mean, they've got to work on something for those kind of... I mean, the ones that you have to make 100 times out of 100. It's basically a throwing running play. It's a passing running play. Right. And he drops the ball at their feet. It just,
I think he's a guy, and I just, everybody, everywhere you go and you go, everybody's always, what do you think about Lamar? And I keep saying this. I just think he is what he is. This is what you're going to get from him. He won the Heisman Trophy doing this. He became a very good college player doing this. He's in the NFL doing this. And I think that it's just innate with him. When he gets the ball, his first thing is, how can I run with it? That doesn't mean he doesn't want to throw it. His first thing when he gets it is, how can I move away from this and create something? And I think it's going to serve him well. And I think it's also, to your point about the hits, I think that, he's going to get hurt. It's just part of the nature. Cam Newton's been hurt for 6 weeks. He can barely throw. You watch him last night, he can barely throw. These guys, if you're going to run around, you're going to get hit. I got news for you. Even if you don't run around, you're going to get hit. If your line stinks, you're getting hit. You can stand in the pocket and get hit.
But again, back to the last thing I'll say about it, with an offseason to scheme, change the playbook, prepare the entire offense around his strengths, I think we see a different version of this in week 1 next year than what we're seeing right now. This is a dumbed-down version. He inherited a playbook that was designed for a much different type of quarterback. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they had wrinkles built in for Lamar, but they didn't have a playbook designed for Lamar.
And this is the reason why they can't, and we've been hearing this, right? It's unbelievable they're not going to get Joe in there. I can't believe it, Joe. They're going to sit Joe on the bench completely, Joe. You can't put Joe back in there.
He's done unless Lamar gets hurt.
Yeah, you can't put him back in there. You can't do to Joe or with Joe what you did with Lamar earlier in the year.
No, of course not.
The line can't work that way. The receivers can't work that way. There's timing. You know this from being out there. This is why they throw footballs to one another 500 times in April and May and June. Everybody like me is poo-poos these passing camps, and you're like, this is stupid. You got shorts on and T-shirts. It's not real football. It's all about timing. How hard does he throw the ball? How does it look coming out of his hand? Where does it come out of his hand? It's not that different than a baseball pitcher. It's one of the reasons why guys like Sabathia have been so great. His stuff's never been awesome, but he's got this unbelievable ability to hide the baseball. So it doesn't come out here. It comes out there. You don't see it until the end. He's going to probably go to the Hall of Fame because he's got one of the best hidden deliveries ever. Pedro Martinez was like that. Unbelievable the way his arm moved. So you have to learn these things, and He needs time. Like, to your point, he needs an off season where these receivers just work with him. You can't
on plays that are designed
right,
for them and he,
and
they are not right now.
Right. So you can't bring Joe in there this Saturday night. To me, if you're losing 14-0 with 9 minutes to go in the third quarter, you can't just say, "Well, we know we got to throw now. You got to bring Joe in." Watch him do that and win 21-14. But you can't do that. You just can't do it.
I don't see that happening.
I don't either. I don't either. And it's in some ways it's a disappointing way for Joe's tenure to end here because it opens him up to a lot of unfinished business, sort of, right? Like Joe got Wally pipped by a rookie. But it is kind of just is what it is. The league really is about changing, and maybe we're at the forefront of changing. Maybe we're the ones that are changing it, even by accident.
Joe's going to be employed next year.
100%.
Joe's going to be employed, and
maybe not that far. Maybe not that far away.
He's going to be a trade.
I don't think they will trade him. I don't think they can trade him. I think because everyone knows he's getting cut. No one would trade for him. Everyone knows he's getting cut.
Well, didn't they know that about Alex Smith?
This is a quarterback-starved league, Drew. Somebody's going to trade for him.
I don't remember that. Maybe. I don't remember the specifics of the Alex Smith thing, of why I thought they traded him mainly because they just wanted Mahomes to be the quarterback. But you might be right. It might have been a
somebody's Drew. You're not getting a first-round draft pick for him.
No.
But
That's for
but
sure.
you could get a third or a fourth depending on the team, and the salary.
If they really want
the
him.
salary cap ramifications are the same. Whether trading him or releasing him, the salary cap.
He's going to be close to home.
I think he is too.
In D.C.
I think he's either going to be in D.C. or he'll be
Alex
with
Smith is
the
finished,
or he'll
then?
be with the Giants. Alex Smith definitely can't play next September. I mean, there's no chance of that.
No, I'm
just got out of the hospital yesterday.
I don't like when we agree, but I agree. We agree.
I think Joe will either. I've heard them say all these things about Eli Manning in the last couple of weeks about how Pat Shurmur thinks he's got 3 or 4 years left. No, he doesn't. I think he's either going to go to New York or D.C.
Joe Flacco's got 3 or 4 years left.
Maybe.
No, his body has 3 or 4 years left, is what I meant. Not he may not want to play. He's a different kind of guy, but his body's Joe's pretty well preserved.
I would agree with you on that if you're willing to concede. I don't know that his performance over the last couple of years has indicated that he's got 3 or 4 years left.
Maybe.
Physically, yes. But I just...
Depends on what he wants to take as a salary.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm like a lot of people. I haven't soured on Joe nearly as much as a lot of people in town because I think that's been overblown. But I also think his performance has waned in the last couple of years.
No question
for
about
sure. I mean, individually, his performance has waned.
Let's move forward to Saturday night. Going out to
Saturday
L.A.
night.
30,000 people.
We should have gone to this game.
Ravens are
Why are
40
we not going?
Because it's my birthday.
Drew, and I'll be Drew.
That would have been a great birthday.
Drew, I'll be on assignment in London.
Oh, that's correct.
I'll be
He's
watching the
going
game
to
at 2:30 a.m.
He's going to London.
2:30 a.m.
When do you leave?
I leave Thursday, so I'll be in London for the game, and my kids have already informed
what
me.
I have for you?
We'll be up at 2:30 in the morning watching it for 2:30 to 5:30
So we're
a.m.
doing it. It's just me and you next week.
It is, but wait. You know what I have for you? I've been waiting to have. Give me $8.
He's got 5 pounds.
Give me $8 real quick. I'm giving you $5. That's my holiday gift to you.
Thank you so much. There's Winston Churchill.
Have a beer on me.
I will do it. I will do it.
I've been waiting.
Have a pint.
I've been waiting. I
Amen.
might even have an oyster pass on me from when I went over there too. I don't know. But anyway,
That thing's the best.
oh, it is unbelievable.
That is unreal.
So I'm going to be the
Have
first.
you experienced the order?
It's amazing.
There's
I told your wife the other day.
Amazing.
You have to get it.
It's a no-brainer.
No, no doubt. You
Because
just go wherever you want to go.
People drive over there like lunatics.
Right.
Number one. Number two, the subway system is phenomenal. You get off to your. Let's say you have to connect.
Mind the gap, please.
Right. Mind the gap.
My kids and I still do all the stops from when we were at Wembley. We're nerds. We're in the car, and I'll be like, next stop, Green Street. And my daughter will say, next stop, Dunedin. Like, we still do. We're crazy. You remember them all. If you're there for like a week, you remember all the stops on your train, like to get downtown.
We're going to Wembley, and we're going to Stamford Bridge.
But you got 5 pounds now.
I got it.
Speak kindly of me.
When I come back from assignment, Tony, I'll report back.
Speak kindly of me when you're over there.
You transfer by the time you get off and walk to the next platform where you get your next rail. It's there within 30 seconds.
No doubt.
It's crazy good.
I know. It's awesome.
So you want me to start for?
Let's talk about the LA Chargers.
Well, the most obvious statement, which you said a few minutes ago, is they have to stay in the game. We have to get to let's start with that. We have to get to halftime, and we still have to have a game on our hands. One score either way. We cannot get down. Just like we said against the Chiefs, we cannot get down. We cannot get down by more than the score. So we have to stay in it, make the game shorter. This is a good defense. I'm more worried about their defense than I am worried about their offense. I think
nicked up a little. Keenan Allen hurt his hip in that Kansas City game. Now they're talking about him coming back. It does look like Gordon's coming back, but you don't know how much, if he's going to be 100% or not.
I think we're going to talk scores, of course, but I think this game has to be in the 24-23 range, 23-20, 24-20, 23.
I got to check something. Hold on.
It's got to stay in that range for us to have any shot at this thing.
I got to go to see what uniforms they're wearing. If they're wearing the powder blue shirt, we're done. No chance.
Dude, you are clearly a man of the 80s.
If they
Patriots
wear that powder blue,
do you own a Dan Fouts somewhere in your arsenal?
No, but I should. That powder blue is really nice.
I'm having a real hard time being the homer of the bunch here. I'm having a real hard time being the homer of the bunch. I'm dying to say 23-20, but I feel like it's going to be more like 30 to 20 San Diego. LA.
You're such a bad guy. I agree too. No, I don't.
You hit it right on the nose last week. You said it was going to be 8-point spread.
You said the odds makers hit it
28-20.
The odds makers hit it on the nose.
And the spread went up from 7.5 to 9.
The odds makers hit it on the nose.
Well, you believe them.
Because they always do. Man. I mean, I want to say that hey, look, they have a chance to win the game. They've played
well. The way
well.
the defense is playing, guys, they're going to stay. I think they'll stay in the game. I just wonder if we can make enough plays with Phillip Rivers playing the way he's playing to stay in it at the very end. I mean, Mahomes is one thing, Rivers is another. Rivers is playing at a high level. I'm going
to say the Ravens win.
And what score are you predicting?
22-16.
Hold them to 16. It's interesting.
I'm going to say the Ravens are going to win. I think it's going to be one of those, they kick 4 or 5 field goals, they get a touchdown. Look, for all the talk we've had about Lamar, and I think we all do the same thing here. We're all fair. We're happy the team wins. We're all fair. We see the good. We see the bad. We're not bashing anyone to bash anyone. For all the talk about Lamar, he hasn't thrown for 200 yards yet, which is kind of comical, right? As an NFL quarterback.
But we're the first team to rush for 190 in 5 straight games since 1976.
Right, but the offense has scored 2 touchdowns basically in every game. There's a pattern here. I think that's what you're going to see. They'll score an offensive touchdown. Maybe they get a defensive score, and they just figure out a way to scratch it away to 22 points, and they hold them.
I'd love to see that happen.
I tend to put a lot of stock in these moments. I put a lot of stock in the momentum of what they've done. And I think John, there's a lot of really good things about John as a coach. And there's some things that we've all criticized. His game management and his clock management's just okay. But one thing these guys do for him, every Sunday, they come to play every Sunday.
They do.
They
no
don't.
Question about it.
It's very like that game when Atlanta, when the Falcons, when we were down there and the Falcons, it was 26-10, and the Falcons basically rolled over in the third quarter. You'd never see the Ravens do that. Never.
You're right.
Ever see the Ravens crawl into the fetal position with 8 minutes left in the third quarter and say we're done? The Ravens never have done that under Harbaugh. Particularly not at home. But even on the road, even this year when they were down early to the Bengals, they came back and it was a football game in the fourth quarter. Even in the game against Carolina when they were down, they still scratched and fought and got a late score. I put a lot of stock in John in these kind of moments. I think he gets these guys to play Saturday night. Because I think they know. This is it. If we don't play tonight, we're probably done tomorrow, depending on what the Colts and the Titans do.
Correct.
I think the Ravens...
Drives me nuts, by the way, that the Colts could eliminate us, right? I still have a little piece of that.
They've come out of nowhere.
Yeah. I mean, look, their defense...
They fixed their offensive line.
They fixed their offensive line, and their defense has actually started week by week to kind of get better. I mean, they shut out the Cowboys.
They shut out.
Yeah.
That was kind of a shock.
Yeah, right.
What do you got tonight?
Thanks a lot, Dallas.
Yeah, right. I think the Ravens have the kind of team now with Lamar at the helm that travels well. They're playing good defense. They run the ball, control the clock.
You're going to be the odd guy out.
The thing that worries me
maybe not.
is Lamar Jackson's ball security.
Right.
And he's fumbled, 4 or 5 times so far?
Well, he's fumbled, I think, 9.
Well, lost.
Right. 4 maybe. Right.
Okay. That worries me, and I think it comes down to, it's a cliche-ish, but I think it comes down to who wins the turnover battle. And given Lamar's recent past, I don't think that the Ravens win the turnover battle. I think they lose a close game.
You two guys.
24-20.
You guys are so bad. I'm here. I'm it. Ravens, baby. W.
We'll take it. We'll take it.
The only other thing I would say, I'm not siding with you two because I'm picking the Ravens to win. But the one thing I would say is 6 games at some point, you would expect him to have a stinker of some kind, right?
I don't know. Based on the style, I don't know. Normally, I'd agree. Okay. But based on the style, I don't know if I agree.
Okay.
I mean, if we can get the run going early, if Gus gets going and Lamar's hitting those edges without getting hit, it just starts to set up. I mean, I'm taking your side. I still don't think we're going to pull it out, but it can't become 10-0 then. It just needs to be, we got the ball for 6 minutes and we kick a field goal. It needs to be the same profile. But I don't, unless he does something boneheaded, I don't see the stinker coming.
Okay.
Because they're not putting him in harm's way.
Okay.
It's not going to throw it.
I agree with Dean because, like you said earlier, we knew what we were getting with Lamar Jackson, and he does the same kind of thing. It's not like one game was so much better passing than the next. They're all kind of like okay.
But if we get down,
right, it's the same thing every week.
But if they get
150 yards every week.
To the point is, if they get down by 2 scores, and the stat line is 35 throws, well then you're going to see harms. Then you're going to see a blowout. You're going to see the ball going all over the place, and he's not going to come back. It'll just become a bigger loss.
So I have a really good come on man. Are you two just going to say your come on man is Cyrus Jones and that's the end of it?
I don't know where I can come up with another one.
I've got one. I've got a good one.
Well, okay, if you say it's Cyrus Jones, I'm going to say special teams. Because not only was it Cyrus Jones, and that's a play that everyone knows, so much for that Gilman education story. But, Cyrus Jones, that's something you just don't do that, right?
Anytime you
John didn't even have
I'm kidding.
John didn't even have a comment for it in the postgame.
He said,
he goes, I literally don't know what to say.
No words.
I mean, thank God for Cyrus's case. I mean, look, he's a Baltimore guy. He's helped us in the last few weeks, which is great.
Oh, I really like the player.
I want the guy to remain on the team. I want it to work out for him. It's a good story. But thank God he returned one the week before to in John's mind, offset that play.
Those are the kinds of things that can't happen against the Chargers. You will lose if those kinds of things happen against the Chargers.
So that's your come on man, Cyrus Jones?
Well, I want to add to it, too, that how do you send... Sam Cook stood out there for how long saying we don't have enough guys on the field?
Oh,
what is that special teams coaching staff doing on the sidelines?
Right.
10 guys.
So you got to come on in two.
And that series, I think that was right after Marlon Humphrey's interception. I think they ended up losing 40 yards.
It was 4th and 41. It was 4th and 41. I mean, I'm sure there's been a 4th and 57 in the history of the league. It was 4th and 41. Like, I've never seen. They put it up on the screen. I'm like, did it say 4th and 41?
And that
what's the play call for that?
Intentional grounding was one of the most hideous I've ever seen.
Right. What's the play call for that? How about that he almost took a sack at the end of the first half? Lamar almost got sacked with the ball, but he threw it right at the end when he was
switched
just getting ready to get down.
He was running with his right, switched to his left, switched back to his right to throw.
The only thing you can't do is take a sack. He almost took a sack.
Right.
So what's your come on man?
My come on man,
and it trumps these two.
It definitely does.
Okay.
And it almost sort of kind of is going to involve him. So you got. I can name them all, but you got Warehouse, Pig, What You've Become, The Best of What's Around, What You Are, Ants Marching. You got all of these songs that you could play. You play freaking Sledgehammer.
By Peter Gabriel.
Dave Matthews the other night, they played Sledgehammer.
For how long?
They played the whole song.
No, but they jammed it. His point is it was probably 6 minutes, 7 minutes long.
I didn't come to see Peter Gabriel. I came to see Dave Matthews, and I came to hear Ants Marching, or Warehouse, or Typical Situation, or any of the other 50 songs I love. I don't want to hear Sledgehammer. Come on, man. Really? And the next night they played
Tony, he's been worked up about this all week, just so you know.
Crazy.
He hasn't let it, every time I talk to him.
And the next night in Charlottesville, the next night they played, now I'm a huge Aerosmith fan. I love old Aerosmith. I think Aerosmith's one of the most underrated bands of our generation. They played Sweet Emotion by Aerosmith. I didn't come to see Steven Tyler. I came to hear you play Pig or The Stone or Warehouse or something. Don't play these. You guys aren't playing at McAvoy's. You're not covering bands. Stop playing these songs.
Wow, he hasn't been this animated since we've been doing this show.
Come on, man.
Not even close.
Playing $125, I want to hear you sing Ants Marching.
I love it.
I hope you didn't have a drug test the next day at work.
Oh, no.
Because you'd have failed.
No, I know. We all would have. Tony, as soon as the show lights go down.
Unbelievable.
Let's take this out to the tune of Sledgehammer.
But let me tell you, there was... marijuana is definitely illegal now in D.C. Let's just say that. Not because Dean had it with him, right? But in that arena...
As soon as the show lights went down.
Oh, my Lord. I mean, it was like Friday night at Lombardi's house. It was
And on that note, we're out of here.
Sledgehammer.
We'll see you next week.
Yeah, don't play Sledgehammer.